Let's just start by closing our eyes. We're going to start with the 20 breaths to take us into a deeper space. So let's start with 1 long breath and then 4 short breaths. So and then 5 more. So keep your eyes closed now, just feeling your physical body, what's happening in your sensations. Perhaps it's difficult, stuck sensations in a particular part of your body, or otherwise it's an openness that flows. There's no right or wrong, there's no better or worse. Just feel what's there and sit with those sensations. And as you give them space and attention, you might find that they start to change. Maybe a deeper level starts to show itself, or maybe this morphs into something different. But the most important thing is just to see what's there for now. Give it space and see what it becomes later. And now let's be aware of our thoughts, worries, doubts. Just let them go by breathing deeply now. Maybe you find that they are linked to a body part, or maybe they are linked to an emotion that comes up now, but just let your thoughts become silent. You don't need to think about what you did earlier on or what you have to do later. Just be in the now, just listening to my voice, just feeling your emotions as they are. And these could be emotions that have come up recently, or they might be prominent emotions that you're dealing with that have been there and present in your life for a while. Remember, these emotions don't need to make sense. Just feel what's coming up for you. And now just let go of those emotions as well, as you connect to your soul. And just for the purpose of this exercise now, visualize your body as like a dark silhouette against a very light background. And that darkness of your body represents the density of the actual physical vehicle, the density of the heavier emotions within you. But that darkness, that denseness isn't bad in any way. It's just a heavier frequency. And now just focus for a moment on that light background, which represents your soul, your divine self, spirit. Just see these two distinct yet very complementary realities. The the light of the higher frequency of your soul, the darkness of the density. And remember, the density is not only your body, it's also the lower frequency emotions. It's also some of your preoccupations and instincts. It could also just represent some of the old habits that prevent you from changing. The old habits and ways that keep you stuck. And now, as you visualize your silhouetted body, perhaps you notice within that darkness of your body a place where a fire is burning. And this is the fire of your passion. This is a burning desire that you have. And of course, in the past you may have had burning desires for certain things, but you've realized that they no longer count, or you've already achieved them. So let this fire that you see within your body, that you feel within your body, be a burning desire for now, in this moment. And this could be a burning desire for something to come that you wish to create, something that you need right now, but perhaps just see this as a flame within you. And perhaps you can start to put a few words or concepts or symbols to what this burning desire is. My suggestion is that you don't have any expectations about this. Allow yourself to be surprised. Maybe your head thinks there's something that you should want, but your heart wants something else. Just let your heart speak. And even if you judge that as something that is not as spiritual as some of the other things you could yearn for, that's fine. Just go with that raw desire. That part of you, maybe a child, maybe a more instinctual aspect of yourself that needs something, that has some unfulfilled desire and passion. If this is your inner child or your inner self that's yearning for something, but that this inner self isn't being heard, just by seeing that fire within you burning, and perhaps by even naming it and acknowledging it, you give it space. You just give it space to be without judgment. See it, and you might not like what you see, but that's absolutely fine. Just be honest with yourself. What do you really want? What do you really desire? And now, just take your focus back to that light that surrounds the silhouetted dark body shape. Just now focus on that light around you, and via your attention and intention, let that light background become more intense, becomes brighter as you call in more of your soul presence, your soul consciousness, your soul intelligence, your soul love. And now breathe this soul light from the outside into the darkness of your silhouetted body that you see and feel. And as you breathe in, perhaps you just see a strand or filament of light moving in through your crown or in through your nose and mouth. And as you keep breathing in this way, take this strand of light down to your base chakra. And you notice that the strand of your soul being lights up your body a little bit more. So you might want to start off with your base chakra. It may be other parts of your body that are feeling particularly dense or heavy need some of this light. So just take it there through your breath, through breathing your soul into your body and being. And this part of you that needs this soul light needn't be only physical, it might be emotions. Breathe the soul light into the emotions or into the thoughts. And as you keep breathing in this way, notice that you feel lighter, but also that your silhouetted body that you're visualizing and feeling also starts to look a little bit lighter as more of the soul light permeates your body and being. Shifts, stirs things up. Keep breathing the soul aspect into your body, lightening your body, lightening your being. And now very specifically, go back to that flame, that burning desire that you connected with earlier on, and breathe this soul light and love into that. Let that flame of your desire be fed, let it grow as you breathe the soul light into it. And possibly breathing this soul light into this raw fire. Maybe it refines it, or it shifts it, or it takes it up to a different level. That may happen, it also doesn't need to happen. Just allowing yourself to take in more of that soul light. And as you take in more of that soul light, you're connected to inspiration, you're connected to a great source of love, of intelligence, of wisdom. So keep breathing it. Your breath connects you to that outer reality. Keep breathing it. And as you keep going with this, as you keep sitting with this energy, perhaps your true heart's yearning becomes clearer. And perhaps you also just become aware of what are some of the obstacles that prevent you from living that soul desire, that heart's desire. And we'll work more with that energy later on, but maybe you just get a few insights and ideas as to what it is that's in the way. Is it society? What society prescribes? Is it your relationship? Is it your job or your lack of money? Is it your habits or addictions? Or the places where you get distracted in life? Maybe it's just very deep psychological resistances, traumas that prevent you. Just notice what some of those obstacles are. Just let them be there. Very good. And now we're going to start to come back. We will revisit this place a little bit later today, but for now just start to return. Opening your eyes, wiggling fingers and toes, stretching. Very good. And yes, just take a few moments to kind of acknowledge or reflect upon what it is that came up for you in that. Again, your heart's desire is very important, you know, because the theme of today's session is going to the next level. And we can only go to the next level, number one, when we kind of, in a way, know what we want. But number two, we also need to kind of have the energy and the drive and the wellness and the well-being within ourselves and in our lives to sort of really push through. And that can just be through a raw energy of desire. It could also be through a strength of vision and a discipline and, putting new ways and new habits into place. And those are, that's equally valid. There's several ways, obviously, of going to the next level. One of them, and this is in contrast to what I've just said, is actually just surrendering to what is, as opposed to saying, this is what I want and I'm far away from it, so what do I need to do to get there? The other sort of fork in the road is just to say, okay, well, this is where I am. I'm nowhere near where I want to be, but I just accept where I am now and I let it go. But those are very distinct paths, and no one of those two paths is better than the other. They're just different approaches to this. But today's approach, we're going to work a little bit more with that of kind of building the strength and energy within us, building our resolve in order to just, I guess, radiate the energy so that we can attract what it is that we want into our lives. And, the metaphor of a candle or a light or a lighthouse is very apt in this regard. If we want to, let's say, attract the ship, or if we want to be seen, if we want our sort of, let's say, heart's desires to see us, metaphorically speaking, our light needs to burn bright. Our magnetism needs to be strong enough so that we can pull that energy towards us. And, on one level, it might be a light for the metaphor that we use. So we might want to shine brighter to attract that energy. Or we might want to have a stronger magnetism in which we can pull that and attract it into ourselves a whole lot better. They're just different metaphors. Probably, the most apt metaphor is that of creating the magnetism, strengthening our frequency, and therefore being able to draw to ourselves, to act as a magnet, the things that we want. But today's session and the session on Saturday with breathwork isn't really going to be focusing on the actual manifestation aspect. It's going to be focusing more on just building the magnet. Through our intentions that we define what we want, but sometimes in our desire to manifest and to create and to sort of be living in our dreams, we kind of focus on the thoughts and the ideas and the visions that we want to create, but we maybe don't have the strong grounding and we don't have the strong sense of developing that magnet, making that magnet itself stronger. Remember, the magnet itself is neutral. It's the intentions that we sort of put over that magnet, let's say, maybe the filters of our desire, that fine-tunes what it is that we attract. But the magnet's going to attract regardless of what intentions you put in or not. The magnet is just the raw force that pulls towards you. And very often in our lives, when we manifest, we are manifesting unconsciously. So we're attracting these situations in that counteract what it is that we desire. It's so-called negative things we draw in often, situations, that aren't desirable. Because the magnet is just neutral. The magnet just just draws in according to what our energy is holding. So in doing this work today, we are going to work with strengthening the magnet, but also kind of just creating a filter around that magnet that is of protection, that is drawing a higher frequency. It's not going to work specifically with specific intentions. Those are for you to, define yourself. But again, today we're not going to really focus on that, because we just want to make that raw, vital force within ourselves stronger. And that raw, vital force is the rawness of our being. And I'm going to talk about that energy today because it relates to the god Ares, which is here behind me, the god of war, the god also of pioneers and courage and oaths. So we're going to work a little bit with that raw energy of Ares. And, Ares as a god of war obviously can have a very negative aspect, but it also has the positive aspect of kind of really fighting for what it is that you believe in, fighting for what you want, training your anger and your vitality in the direction that you desire, as opposed to just going into brutal destruction. But before we go there, before we look a little bit at Ares, we're going to draw a card for today and for the week. Just a little bit of information. And, while I speak about the cards, don't forget the randomized mythology cards that I designed are live now. So you can receive one of those once every 2 weeks if you do sign up on my website. So the card for today is going to be this one, and that is Gaia. That is Gaia, Mother Earth. And Gaia is, apart from being Mother Nature, Mother Earth, apart from being, our groundedness and our connectedness to our environment and this, this place where we live, this planet where we live, it's also very much about earthing something new, birthing something new. So Mother Earth, Gaia in this case, in this particular card, is about creating a new foundation. So it really is saying this is a very good time for you to plant the seeds for what it is that you desire, to make them grow, and for it to be very practical. It's not up in the air, it's not airy-fairy, it's earthy, it's grounded, it's very real. So very tangible things are very important for you at this time. That also implies that it might be a good time for you to focus more on some practical things that you can do in your life, or taking some practical steps to further your business or the other things that you desire. But of course, Gaia, speaks on the one hand of, let's say, that practicality, but it also speaks of the fertility, saying that it is a very good time for these things to grow and flourish of their own accord, and for you to be able to be creative and trust that the fruits of that labor will come into your life. So that ties in a little bit with what we're talking about today. Obviously the energy of Gaia is the energy of Earth, and the element of Earth is very much our physical body. It's very much our career. It's our stability in the world. And, a lot of our attention goes into that. A lot of our survival depends on what's happening to us on an earthy level. The energy of Aries or Mars is more of a fiery energy. So whereas Earth, let's say, can be quite stagnant and quite solid and dense, fire is the opposite. It's really about moving that dense energy and getting things done, burning with passion, burning with desire, burning with anger as well. And in a way, those two are quite opposite. And, we always need the rootedness and the groundedness, but that can also become stagnation and stuckness and inability to move forward. So, whenever you are feeling stuck in your life, it's about getting the fire, getting the movement back into your life that becomes very important. And that is what Ares behind me is about, the god of war. It's, obviously with all mythology, we can read the myths on a very literal level. So, that is the god of warfare, that is the god of uncontrolled rage, bloodthirstiness, and so forth, relating to the stories themselves, because Ares appears in mythology, often as kind of a ridiculous figure, a figure to be feared. A figure is often humiliated, or, who is so rash and so irrational that he is, kind of considered a little bit absurd. But on the other hand, the energy of Ares is also kind of the raw energy of fire, of making something happen in our lives. And, sometimes in our lives we get too stuck in our comforts and our habits and our comfort zones, in our distractions, and then we need to stir up the fire to get things going. And the fire is often stirred up on the one hand by crisis. It could be that something happens, that our back is against the wall, that someone attacks us, or for whatever reason we go into the attack and it kind of puts us into a war mode. Or otherwise, Ares can be activated through our passions, through the desire, the burning desire for something, as we worked with in the visualization earlier on. So very often, we kind of get up and move and make things happen because we have a desire, or we have a burning ambition or a burning vision that we want to put into the world. So always it's preferable, of course, to be proactive in putting our vision into the world, in moving towards what it is that we desire. But very often in life, life kind of forces something on us. So it could be a crisis situation, it could be confrontations in relationship, it could be difficult situations in work that kind of force us to move. And I guess, being proactive is more positive in that we have a little bit more of a conscious sense of what we're doing, therefore we're a little bit more prepared. When we're reacting to situations like a crisis of some sort, of course we feel a whole lot more out of control. And generally speaking, when we're out of control, we react with anger. That's a different expression of fire. It's the kind of consuming, brutal energy of having to survive and having to fight to survive. And even though that might not be a pleasant situation to be in, I would say, 80% of the time when we are in these crisis situations, we actually really grow as a result of them. It might be months later that we only realize the gift of the crisis, but we do grow through them. So we've got a kind of reactive way, we've got a proactive way, and of course, I guess the middle ground would just be the active way. And the active way would be to constantly kind of observe what's happening in our lives, to see which parts of our lives are not flowing or are not sort of enjoyable anymore, or are not bringing benefits into our lives, and actively making the decision to make the changes that we need to make. But very often a comfort zone or a situation in which our hands are tied kind of keep us in the current or the movement that takes us towards eventually having to react. I kind of use, proactive and reactive as the two opposites, and the active is in the middle. This reactive is kind of, just following the comfort zone that eventually will force us to have to react in an unconscious way. Proactive, is where we are making a decision to make a change. And usually when we are in touch with ourselves on a deeper spiritual level, when we're doing work with, let's say, trance, or work, with, visionary work, we can move towards the proactive way, because visions, epiphanies reveal the way ahead for us. and therefore we can kind of consciously steer ourselves in that direction. This reactive current or direction is more just where we are taken. It could be our own laziness, it could be our own ignorance, it could be our own fear that kind of takes us into this reactive way. But usually what happens is in life, it's almost like the soul has a particular place where it wants us to be. Let's imagine this is kind of the road of life, and this is where soul wants us to be. But when we get stuck, we're here and we sort of resist and we hold on to comforts, and soul kind of wants us to be here and is kind of calling us, but we're not listening. And then we sometimes need some sort of crisis or some sort of important event to catch us up with where our soul wants us to be. So again, that's not necessarily a desirable way to do it, but it's not a value judgment. It's not saying that you've failed or you've done something wrong. It's just you haven't advanced along the path as to what lessons your soul wants you to learn. So you have to catch up, and often that catch up is through some sort of break, some sort of energetic shift that can cause a lot of friction. So the path of being active, which is that middle path between reactive and proactive, that part of being active is of constantly caring enough about the world outside that we can actually see the signs, read the signs outside, caring enough about our inner world, our bodies, first of all, in terms of health, caring enough about our desires, and caring enough about love to nurture love in our lives, and nurturing the light and nurturing the truth in our lives. So it's when we care that we do something about it. When we care for something, we kind of move towards it, or we take care, we cultivate it so that will grow. So when we're in that kind of middle road of being active, of activity, we are constantly nurturing. If you want to use the metaphor of, excuse me, tending our gardens, we're actively watering, we're actively fertilizing, we're actively pruning, actively weeding the whole time to allow that thing to grow. When the soil isn't fertilized, when the soil is dry, that plant is going to, become neglected. It's going to be stunted in its growth. It's not going to reach its fullest potential. So this energy of Aries that we want to work with, or that we're kind of invoking today in our session today, is about that constant activity. It's a calm vigilance. It's not a warlike, brutal vigilance where we're constantly watching and constantly ready to defend or attack. It's more of just a constant awareness of, what's happening around us. You can see what's around you. And when you really see, when you really look, you don't need to be in fear. I think fear in many cases arises when something comes up unexpectedly, or when there's kind of a shadow or a darkness that we don't understand, and it scares us, so we kind of, pull away from it. When we, are vigilant in a balanced way, we are vigilant enough to be able to look at that, let's say, shadowy patch that's appearing in our lives, look at it, spend time with it, explore it, see what it really is. Is that shadow that we're seeing a real, let's say, metaphorically demon? Or is it just, the projection of a small ant which has, metaphorically speaking, a strong light just behind it, which projects this huge seeming image of a demon, onto the screen of our lives out there? Is it an ant that's very close to the light? Or is it a real demon, a real thing that we need to be careful of? So our tendency often, when we're not kind of vigilant, or when we're not in this mode of caring, this mode of, wanting to move forward in our lives in a positive way, when we see this demon, very often when our fear is activated, we don't look, we don't do the research, we don't examine what's there. We just say, I'm not going to look at that, or I'm scared of that, I'm not going there. So our life becomes one of kind of avoiding this and kind of following this path that we've kind of made to the side, which isn't necessarily the true path. But we're kind of skirting this path because we don't want to go there to this so-called dark place. Yet we're constantly living in the fear of this thing that we're trying to avoid, this thing that we're trying not to look at, or we're hoping isn't going to affect us. So the path of the true warrior, let's say the purest form of the god Ares, is to just say, here I am, I feel I'm on this path, I feel strong on my path. I feel strong enough to face this demon, if it is truly a demon. And I trust that I have, the armor, the weapons that I need to fight this thing in my life. And of course, this is fighting in a positive way. It's not about gratuitous violence. It's about, really fighting for that path, fighting to be able to follow that path, fighting to get rid of the obstacles that are preventing you from walking that path with sort of dignity and grace. So when we're in that true warrior, we are willing to look around at all times. We're willing to see the demons and somehow confront the demons. And probably more often than not, those so-called demons that we see along the path are just kind of figments of our fear or of our imagination. And then we can very quickly evaluate and say, okay, I realize this is nothing to fear, therefore I can continue along my path with peace and ease and grace. And that makes our lives a whole lot more comfortable and pleasant than scuttling along the edge and sort of constantly being fear of this thing that could be. And therefore, that implies having enough of the warrior spirit within ourselves to say, okay, I see a dark cloud on my horizon, and you know what? I've actually just got to go into that dark cloud, and I've just got to face that. And part of facing that is, of course, courage. The word courage comes from French cœur, which means heart. So it's courage, it's having the heart of being able to, it's having enough heart in yourself to fight for what you love, for what's important to you. So again, it's the heart of conviction, sort of being willing to fight for that thing, but also letting the love of what it is that you're fighting for pull you forwards. So we're engaging our courage in order to do what we need to do, to face what we need to face so that our lives can be better later. And of course, that always relates to a vision. We all kind of deep down know what we really want in our lives. We all want certain qualities. We all want love. We all want peace. We all want fulfillment. But we have these literal demons within ourselves that want to sabotage us, or that are addicted to the adrenaline of fighting with our partner or our parents or whatever, or our children. Or we have this addiction to the adrenaline of constant chaos and drama in our lives. And even though, if we sit down and we're peaceful and we're rational, we would say, I don't want that. I don't want to live that life of constant drama. But deeper down, we have these kind of addictions to certain sabotaging patterns. And of course, that's where our Aries energy of sort of being a warrior and being willing to go to the next level in our lives comes in, where we've got to say, okay, I'm going to fight the inner battle. It's not necessarily about the outer battle. And that inner battle is of course, in a way, the more difficult one, because we can't see it clearly. It is something that, where there are so many, there's so much smoke and mirrors. Is something really true, or is that the ego speaking, or is that something else that's causing a distorted vision? And again, the only way that we can really know, and the only way that we can really discern, is to return to our heart and to return to, what do I want in my life? What is the quality that I want? And that is, very much this path of introspection. And we're going to, in a moment, do another visualization, taking what we started with a little bit further, whereby we start to contrast what it is that we really want in our lives, perhaps something that came up for you before, earlier on, and contrast that with what is the obstacle, what is the thing that is preventing us from living our heart's desire. And usually it's some sort of energy block, at some sort of trauma or some sort of addiction or some sort of distraction that's preventing this light of the heart's desire from really being a beacon and really burning so brightly, or being such a strong magnet that it can attract into our lives our heart's desire. There's the clouds, if you want to call it the clouds, or the other obstacles within ourselves become stronger. So we're going to work with really strengthening this magnet or this light so that it really just overpowers and disintegrates those unconscious obstacles that get in the way. And of course, those unconscious obstacles usually are actually completely ridiculous. They're resulting from completely ridiculous situations or decisions that we've made as children, and we've held on to them for emotional reasons. It's because, I'm just using a silly example, it's because I loved my mother and my mother always beat me, that means that I need to be beaten by women. I mean, it's that, that could be as stupid as that. Or emotionally abused by men. If my father was emotionally abusive, because I love him, this is what men are, and this is what I therefore deserve or attract. So, those are those silly decisions that we all make. And of course, that's not to minimize anyone's trauma, and we all have real traumas. But we also have patterns that we made that result from certain, decisions that are no longer valid in our lives. We've moved on, we've survived those situations. So it becomes really important for us to radiate that light that is going to get us on track with what it is that's important or with what we desire. So again, to do that, we are going to work with just strengthening, first of all, our own vitality. And just by having more energy, just by having more light, that already is enough. Because as soon as we start to disassociate from the limited vision of who we are or what life is really about or of what we think we deserve to have, as soon as we start to just disassociate a little bit from those darknesses, and as we start to focus just a little bit more on the light, the vitality, the health, the well-being in our lives, as we make space for more of that, that expands and that starts to grow and it starts to open doors for us in our lives. So we'll go into a visualization now, and we'll take this further. So let's all close our eyes. Let's sit up straight, just be comfortable. And now let's just take a few deep breaths, and as you do so, just connect with the visualization of earlier on in the session, perhaps just connecting with that image of the body as a dark silhouette, with that image of soul and spirit, and the divine all around you as great light. And within that silhouette of your body now, just visualize that flame that burns as your heart's desire. This might be an overriding heart's desire that you're conscious of. It might be a very specific goal that you're working towards at this time. Or otherwise it might just be a general heart's desire for you to live in your truth, for you to live in love, in light, for you to live connected to the divine. But whatever definition you give to that heart's desire, just see it as a flame burning within. And now just visualize and see any obstacles that might be around or next to that flame, getting in the way of its light. And perhaps as you take a few deep breaths now, you start to become aware of some of those patterns. What are the obstacles in your life? Is it feeling you don't deserve? You're not good enough for some reason? Did you just miss out for some reason? Did God, Goddess overlook you? Did your parents cripple you? Or has life just been unfair? Or perhaps you just get in your own way and you don't do enough or respect yourself enough. Whatever resonates with you, any of the conditions I've mentioned or any other condition, just sit with it. And just give it a shape and give it a color within that silhouetted dark body shape. So you see your flame burning, and just next to it you see a particular obstacle or several obstacles which maybe are undefined, have some be defined, but others might just be there that are undefined. And just notice now how those obstacles diminish the glow of that flame of your heart's desire, and just breathe just into that sense of a diminished glow, a sense of there's so much more to you, but things are getting in the way. Just breathe into that. You might be aware of specifically what is in the way in your life, but you might also just be aware of those emotions. How does that make you feel to know that you're in your own way? It's not life, it's not your past, it's not current world circumstances. Your emotional reactions to all of these things are partially responsible for what's in the way of this flame burning brighter, or this magnet attracting more powerfully. So just breathe, constantly breathe, just to heighten this experience. And as you keep breathing, as you keep going, start to visualize that flame or that magnet of your heart's desire starts to, first of all, diminish the strongest of those obstacles, and get a sense of what that obstacle is, what the emotion or the feeling or the thought or the situation behind that obstacle is. But as you breathe, you are strengthening this flame or magnet, and as this strengthens, it also dissipates a little bit more and a little bit more of the energy within that obstacle. The brighter the light gets, the more that heat and that light dissipates the obstacle. And the first step in this dissipation might just be an awareness of what it is and what your patterns are and what you do. Just keep breathing. Breathing to make that light and that magnet stronger, for it to dissolve more of that obstacle. And as the obstacle dissolves, you gain more insight and understanding. And as you keep going, breathing with that, perhaps you notice that that first obstacle that you worked with is significantly weakened, that it can collapse in on itself. And then you keep breathing to let that light and that magnet become stronger As you keep breathing, you notice other obstacles that get in the way of the glow, of the force, of that heart's desire. But you notice that with your breath now, the breath is about building that faith and that strength in the flame, in the light, diminishing the obstacles, associating more with the light. And it's the more that you believe in yourself and the more that you believe in this light and this magnet, the more you are able to overcome any obstacles, the more you are able to go to the next level in your life. So keep breathing. Keep pushing beyond. We're going to do 5 more deep breaths now, and on the 5th breath, all of those obstacles are just going to be cleared just for now, just in this moment. So take those 5 breaths, and on the 5th breath, in a great flash, light explodes from that flame and it just consumes those obstacles. And just be in that flash, in that brightness, in that glow. You don't need to think about the future. You don't need to think about, are these obstacles gone forever? Just in this moment, feel what it feels like to be free of those obstacles. Just in this moment, feel what it feels like to be associated with that light, that glow, to feel invincible, to feel that anything is possible, to feel that this fire is burning with you, that you are burning with this fire of transformation, and that the divine God, Goddess is within that fire, within that light, and that this fire is about faith, your faith in the divine, that the divine is so great that all your striving and all your desires can be accommodated within the greatness of the divine. And therefore you can trust, you can hand over the need to control. Just trust that the divine has got your back, that you're taken care of, that transformation and transmutation can be instantaneous as you hold this light within you. This light that is stronger than any of the obstacles. As you hold this within you and you make it yours, transformation can be immediate. That's all you need to do. Just trust that it's possible. Keep your mind, your thoughts, your judgments far away. It's possible to transform instantaneously. Just now in this moment, say a prayer or decide that you allow this. You allow this inner fire to burn bright, to give you greater vitality, to burn through the things that make you small, the ways in which you hold back on yourself. Let the light just illuminate that, burn it away, take away the darkness of those doubts and fears. And in doing this, you can expand, you can become more, you can become divinely inspired and carried. And breathe it to make it real. Breathe it to make it a part of your body and your being and your life. You don't need to understand how this could work. You just need to decide that you give it the chance to be possible. You can follow your heart's desires. You can have what you want. And that can bring you joy, fulfillment, and bliss. Very good. Now just return your attention fully to your body. Perhaps you notice a place in your body where this fire sits. Take note and give it space. So just be aware of what some of those obstacles were, but above all, what the antidote to those obstacles is. You don't need to know exactly what it is that your heart's desire is at this stage, but just know that you can nurture this, make space for it in your life. You don't need to hold back on yourself anymore. But you can change the conditions in your life according to living your heart's desire. Very good. Planting the seeds of possibility. That's all you're doing now, is just planting the seeds for greater faith, hope, love, light, truth. And now gently return by wiggling fingers and toes, taking another long deep breath. This breath really plants that seed within you, in each and every cell. And now return by opening your eyes, being back here in the room. Good. Thank you everyone for being here today and participating. So remember, we're doing breath work this coming Saturday, and we're going to take this further through the breath work session. We're going to work very specifically with taking, let's say, anger, let's say like a very raw energy like anger, and using the raw energy and the force of that to take it into feeding our heart's desire. Because, you know, all energy is just energy, it's not good or bad. So when we take something like anger and take that let's say base expression, which could be anger, and turn and channel that in the direction that we want it to go, we really are drawing on a raw power and actually a raw ally. So anger is one example. There could be many other sort of emotions that we can use to work with that. Sexuality is another one of them. You know, fear is one that can also it takes a lot of power that we can work with and transmute. So that will be Saturday, and as I said before, if you want to sign up for the mythology cards, please visit my website and subscribe there on the archetypes page, and that will be a randomized mythology card that is very specific to you. It's not just, you know, one card fits all. It's very specific to you, and you'll get that every new moon and full moon, and it's kind of a nice way to just, you know, look at your intentions, look at what the card's saying, and to kind of plan your sort of 2 weeks or the next sort of cycle of the moon according to what that card says and what sort of information and feedback it gives. So thank you very much everyone. We will see you in about a month's time. I'll send out the notice for the next meetup, and have a wonderful November further. Please do stay in touch and let me know how you're going. Thank you. Thanks everyone.